It's been almost 5 years since the PS4 came out, and you could say it's had a very good life. It's sold over 70 million units and it's got a raft of critically acclaimed games under its belt. And now it seems that the console is about to set off on its final voyage.
Speaking to investors this week, PlayStation President John Kodera said the PS4 is entering the final phase of its life. According to Wall Street Journal reporter Takashi Mochizuki, Kodera told analysts and investors this, quote, PS4 is entering the final phase of its life cycle, which would have a negative impact to the unit, but recurring revenue via membership services, etc. should cushion some of that. Kodera also apparently told investors that this final phase period would last until March 2021. So, not quite an imminent death then. Kodera also had something to say about first-party PlayStation exclusives. According to Mochizuki's translation, he said, quote, beefing up first-party titles wouldn't just mean more new IPs. Strategy includes franchising successful IPs and refreshing existing IPs. You can expect more exclusive titles for PlayStation platforms. So that might surprise some of you if you've, maybe you've just bought a PlayStation 4 in the last year or so, and to hear someone say, well, not just someone, the president of Sony saying that the PlayStation is on its way out, essentially. There's only a few years left. But that is, they're looking at like 2021, so you're looking at another 3 years. Now, this is just another piece of the puzzle, right? That PlayStation 5 is on the horizon. There have been other rumours and reports and insider leaks and stuff like that recently about the next console. And we're just getting to that stage in the console cycle, aren't we? So there you go.
It makes sense. I think they need games when PS5 comes along to be ready. So for the developers need to be working on games ready for the console launch. Otherwise, they launch console and there's no games. They don't want that. So saying this out in public, essentially, and letting devs know, letting people know to expect it's coming soon. They don't want to end this console life cycle. They're raking it in off the PS4 right now. They're making loads of money off game sales, and they've got a market share which is like dwarfs that of any other console manufacturer. So they don't want it to end. They can just stretch out as long as possible, but they need games. They need people starting again. And the rumor is that the dev packs for PS5 went out beginning of the year, or they're already out anyway at developers. So someone somewhere is definitely working on a PS5 game. Are you excited? Let us know down below. Also this week, the dystopian survival game We Happy Few has been refused an age rating in Australia, meaning it's pretty much banned. According to the website of the Australian Classification Board, the reason for the refusal is that the game does, quote, depict, express or otherwise deal with matters of sex, drug misuse or addiction, crime, cruelty, violence or revolting or abhorrent phenomena in such a way that they offend against the standards of morality, decency and propriety generally accepted by reasonable adults to the extent that they should not be classified. And we're probably demonetized having used all those words. So while the board doesn't give a specific reason why the game was refused for classification, it is likely because of the extensive use of drugs within the game. In We Happy Few, the NPCs are under the influence of a drug named Joy, which makes them happy, and in order to blend in and survive, the player character has to take the drug as well. There is a joy meter which increases as more drugs are taken, but if players take too much, the character will overdose. It's likely that this is the reason why the ACB refused to rate We Happy Few, as they have refused games in the past for similar reasons. For example, in 2008, Fallout 3 was refused classification in Australia because the game featured drug use which gave players a gameplay advantage. Fallout 3's in-game drugs were originally named after real-world drugs like morphine, and there was an animation that played out when they were used. So Bethesda removed the animation and renamed morphine to MedX in order to satisfy the ACB. After removing the references to real-world drugs from the game, Fallout 3 was released in Australia with an MA 15+ rating. But with drugs being a central mechanic in We Happy Few, it'll be interesting to see how or if the developers will alter the game.
So yeah, it does mean it's banned, but in its current form, which means that the developers can just change whatever it is, usually that is the problem. However, this is a central mechanic to We Happy Few. This is absolutely integral to the entire theme of the game. So I don't know how they're going to get around it and please the Australian ratings board. So it's going to be a tough one for them to sell the game in Australia, is all I'm saying. It's not like they can just change the colour of the blood from red to green, like Valve could do with Left 4 Dead when that happened in Australia. They are in a bit of a pickle here with this one, is all I'm going to say.
In a bit of a pickle, and it all comes about because of the archaic rules around licensing games in Australia. It doesn't make any sense to me why you would be allowed to watch a film with like horrific violence violence and whatever depicted, whatever you want. You can watch whatever films you want. I guess that's within reason as well. But you can't take drugs in games. That's it. Game over. And not even with a adult rating, 21 plus, 18 plus, whatever. They want to look after the population so much. We don't want people to be affected. Whatever the reasons for it. I think personally, my own personal opinion, it's bullshit, and they need to stop doing it. They need to stop dictating to people what they're allowed and not allowed to experience in games. Let us make the decisions. Let us look after ourselves. We're responsible enough to do that, believe it or not.
Thematically in the game, the drugs aren't good either. Yeah, it's supposed to be like this dystopian future society where people are just drugged into not worrying about the real problems. That's the whole story and theme of the game. So it's not like they're just saying drugs are great, the end. They're saying that the only way that people are being kept in line and being controlled is by using this drug that kind of, it's a horrible idea. It's not supposed to be a good thing. It's not supposed to be encouraging people to take drugs because the world seems a better place when you do it. The whole point is that it's this dystopian future, and that is important as well. So I guess best of luck to the developers if we're happy for you getting classified in Australia.
It's very ironic that they're pulling back against a game which controls its population with drugs by controlling the population from games. It's quite ironic, that.
And finally in the news, a piece of promotional art for the mobile game Paladins Strike was criticised recently for using what appeared to be art from its rival game Overwatch. A Reddit user spotted the resemblance, and Paladins developer Hi-Res Studios quickly replied, essentially acknowledging the likeness, saying the art was outsourced and was not scrutinised thoroughly. The art in question has the Paladins champion Lex standing against a city backdrop. Problem is, the city background is identical to the official artwork of Overwatch's Lijiang Tower map, which is shown whenever the map is being loaded. One of the art directors from Hi-Res replied to the Reddit thread saying, quote, "This art was created by an overseas partner studio for Paladins Strike and had not much in the way of oversight in this content creation by anyone internally at Hi-Res. We will be looking into this immediately." Paladins and Overwatch do already share strikingly similar art styles, and they are both hero shooters which launched in 2016. Hi-Res Studios president Stu Chisholm even joked about how similar the two games were at one point. I guess this is kind of the problem. This is the risk that you run when you do two things. You make a game that looks very similar and plays very similar to another game that's come out the same year, and then you outsource your art design and creation to an overseas studio and not monitor it yourself at all. This thing kind of happens a lot in mobile gaming, and even using names and full out, just copying and cloning other games, and it's a real problem. So the fact that this has been picked up, I think, is kind of more testament to the strong communities around Overwatch and stuff, and the fact that it is so prominent. All I'm saying is I've seen worse. Yeah, I've seen worse in mobile games.
I mean, I think the problem is that they're not filtering, they're not checking it, not quality checking all this outsourced thing. Yeah. It's their responsibility, and saying, "Oh, these guys did it, we just didn't check it." It's still your responsibility as the studio to check that it isn't copied or somebody else. It reminds me of when PUBG had the Pantygate or whatever it was, where it was showing the female genitalia.
Same excuse, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was it was outsourced. It wasn't us, it was outsourced, but that had to get fixed in the end. It happens very, very often now, and it's because of outsourcing, right? Because companies use outsourcing because it's cheaper or whatever.
Art and all kinds of stuff.
They just need to check their shit. So PS5 is a maximum of 3 years off. Are you ready to jump in right now, or are you hoping that the PS4 sticks around a little longer? Let us know down in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new around here, check out another one of the videos on your screen there. Support us on Patreon using that link there. We'll see you again in the next video. Until then, bye for now.